Running a business comes with a lot of what ifs, but luckily there's a simple answer to them. Shopify. It's the commerce platform behind millions of businesses, including Thrive Cosmetics and Momofuku, and it'll help you with everything you need. From website design and marketing to boosting sales and expanding operations, Shopify can get the job done and make your dream a reality. Turn those what ifs into... Sign up for your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/special offer.
Hi, it's Eva Longoria, and let's be real. After 40, we should ask for more from our skincare. I swear by Revitalift Triple Power Moisturizer by L'Oréal Paris. With vitamin C, pro-retinol, and hyaluronic acid, it reduces my wrinkles, firms, and brightens. And it's not a procedure. It's just a hardworking moisturizer.
Revitalift Triple Power Moisturizer by L'Oréal Paris. Grab it today in fragrance-free or with SPF 30. Available at your local Target.
Hi, it's Kanika, and I'm back with a brand new season of That's Total Mom Sense, where I interview parenting experts, world-renowned thought leaders, best-selling authors, and trailblazing entrepreneurs on their incredible life stories and mom sense experiences.
Hi, I'm Gabby Bernstein, and you're listening to me on That's Total Mom Sense.
It's me, Bobby Brown, on Total Mom Sense. Can't wait to share my story.
Hi, I'm Dr. Lisa, and you're listening to me on That's Total Mom Sense.
Pandemic or not, these episodes will inspire you to make every single day count. Episodes release on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Join my tribe and subscribe wherever you listen so you never miss an episode.
There's also some studies about kids who watch Mr. Rogers are kinder than those who don't. And I actually went into TV because I didn't love what was on TV for kids. Like we grew up with Mr. Rogers and Sesame Street, and the kids of that day, early 90s, did not. And so much, it wasn't, there was so much other programming. And so I wanted to bring it back to the fact that, we could put something on that kids can learn from, even if they don't realize they're learning.
As moms, we often wonder, am I doing enough for my kids? I'm here to tell you, you are super mama. That's because we have an undeniable superpower, our intuition, and it never steers us wrong. I call it our mom sense. Hi, I'm Kanika Chadda Gupta, and I'm the host of That's Total Mom Sense. I'm a journalist, entrepreneur, wife, and mom of 3, twins plus 1. Now, if I had $1 every time I heard, gee, you have your hands full. On my podcast, I interview influential moms from various industries and cover topics that all first-time parents grapple with, from getting your baby to sleep to screen time allowance, your new normal in your marriage, and how to dedicate time to yourself. Learn and laugh along with That's Total Mom Sense. Growing up, I vividly remember watching fun educational programming with my younger sister, like Sesame Street, Reading Rainbow, 3-2-1 Contact, and Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. The common thread was that these shows were so wholesome and educational and enriching. Today's interview is with media trailblazer and pioneer in children's programming, Angela Santomero. Joan Rogers, wife of the late Fred Rogers, says Angela is carrying on Fred's legacy with her work in children's media, a modern-day Fred Rogers. Angela C. Santomero, creator and executive producer of Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood, Blue's Clues, Wish and Poof, Creative Galaxy, and Super Y, has been changing the way children watch TV for more than 20 years. She is the creator, executive producer, and writer for award-winning kids and family content for PBS, Nickelodeon, and Amazon Studios. With a master's in Child Developmental Psychology from Columbia University Teachers College, Angela's vision for integrating educational curriculum into entertaining content for kids led her to co-create, executive produce, and head write Nick Jr.'s landmark series, Blue's Clues. Malcolm Gladwell referred to Blue's Clues as one of the stickiest TV shows ever made in The Tipping Point. Angela is the recipient of the prestigious Peabody Award for Outstanding Children's Programming, as well as several gold and silver Parents' Choice Awards. Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood was awarded an Emmy for Outstanding Preschool Children's Animated Series at the 2019 Daytime Creative Arts Emmy Awards. Ms. Santomero's book, Preschool Clues, Raising Smart, Inspired, and Engaged Kids in a Screen-Filled World, produced by Touchstone, was released in April 2018. Her second book, Radical Kindness, The Life-Changing Power of Giving and Receiving, was released last year as well. Angela, it is so exciting to have you on the show and to get into our chat today. So thank you for joining me.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
I feel like you must be this big kid at heart because you really understand children's programming and essentially how their minds work. So let's take a trip down memory lane. And if you could just tell us a little bit about your childhood and what it was like growing up for you.
So I grew up in New Jersey, grew up in a loud Italian family. I have a little sister, 4 years younger, and a little brother who was actually 14 years younger. And so I think Rob became kind of my first child development experiment. And so watching him grow up was kind of that first piece. But I was an avid babysitter, camp counselor, even going back at that preschooler that couldn't sit closer to the TV when Mr. Rogers was on. I read every single book that I could read, just always immersed myself in fantasy worlds in a lot of ways. I loved that. Mm-hmm. And I found kids really funny. Like they would just crack me up, like I remember even babysitting, like thinking that they were just hysterical. So it was always kind of one of those things of putting together what I loved, which was, this influential media and like what TV and exciting and entertainment is so exciting with kids. And then also educating and using the medium of TV to educate, it makes sense to me when I think back on on all the stuff I managed. A toy store in high school, FEO Schwartz in the mall.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
So all those things.
Tell us some of the career milestones from your perspective, because your resume is incredible. So let's dive into that. Like, is there anything that you remember that was like, that was an achievement right there?
All of it. I think I'm still kind of in awe of how much fun it is, of what I get to do. There's stress, so I don't want to say that it's just fun, but I still love it. But research was one of the first things that I fell in love with, this idea of understanding how kids watch TV and how they learn. And Nickelodeon under Jerry Laybourne, it was all about understanding kids and being in research. And so I fell in love with that aspect when I was at Nickelodeon. I was in their research department. So I thought that was the most fascinating thing I could do. And then started to become kind of the preschool expert because of my background and started working more with creators and developers of programming. And I, as a Jersey girl, had opinions that I would share. And so, respectful opinions, but those would get me into a few more meetings. And so I think that, one of those meetings that I'll never forget happening was this idea of a game show for preschoolers, and that Nickelodeon was looking for something similar to the success they had with Double Dare. And so that led me to thinking about it differently, which was the beginning of Blue's Clues. So that moment. And then I remember, going through all the pieces that you have to go through, which takes, usually it takes years. And this took at least a year to kind of get going. But we were on set. And I came back from set and put pictures up all over my wall in the office. And I said, I cannot go back to my day job. Like, this has to work. This is the most exciting thing I've ever done. So writing something and then watching it come alive, right, was really intoxicating. And then afterwards, once Blue's Clues premiered, watching kids react to it was the other thing. I think the milestones really were Blue's Clues for 10 full years with that team. Like, I'll still cry if I think about my team. Wow. And then having the opportunity to continue to work with PBS and to promote a reading show, and the opportunity to meet Fred and to do his legacy project, which was Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood. So those kinds of moments are those pinch me moments for me.
Yes. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. With Blue's Clues, I feel like you really revolutionized TV with mixing the animated and Josh, the host. I think that's so cool. I haven't seen that since Roger Rabbit. I'm dating myself, but
that's what we would talk about.
No way. Yeah. Okay. So how did that come to be? You were like, we're going to try this new format where we're mixing it up.
One of the things that we knew, right, was that even back then, when there were very few shows on, we knew we had to cut through the clutter. And so what would you do that would make things look different? So that was one. And the other one was Mr. Rogers, right? So a real life person who was not Fred at all, but a person that could look through the camera at you was something that was very influential for me. And then think about a preschooler as an animated character that could jump into games or jump into different fantasy moments was kind of the way that we started talking about it. And to sort of figure out that look, my co-creator, Tracy Page Johnson, was the queen of that. So us working together hand in hand with, writing and researching and designing and creating and like trying to create something that, you just, when you would flip the channels as we used to do, you would stop and look at it.
So how did you revive Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood to Daniel Tiger? Like, what were those conversations like in the beginning before, now we've seen what the final product is?
It was funny because I was working on Superwise, so I was in Canada a lot. It was really, really busy. And Kevin Morrison, who was the head of Fred Rogers Productions at the time, just kept tracking me down and had, he flew to New York to be like, I need to talk to you. And so when we talked about it, I just said, look, I'm in, except for the fact that I will not try to find another Fred Rogers. Like, he was born, he wasn't found. So we can't do the show the way that it was done. But, I was the biggest fan. So if we could think about animating the neighborhood of make-believe and growing up those characters, I would be really excited about that. So, one of the things that Fred did as puppets was that Prince Tuesday as a baby puppet actually grew up across the series over the years. And I thought that blew my mind. I thought that was the coolest thing.
Yeah.
The idea, right? Like, do you remember the little...
No, I do remember the land of make-believe and the trolley. And when you're saying Prince Tuesday, I remember. That
inspired the idea of okay, what if all of those characters actually did grow up and had babies and kids of their own?
That's so
what
cool.
would that look like? And so it was that just started everything. And really, it was my 4-year-old self jumping in and playing with those characters. That was kind of really where that was. But I have to say, as a super fan, I knew when we were online before the show would premiere, I would get all of these hate messages. Who is this person trying to bring back, Mr. Rogers show? Blah, blah, blah. And I would spend so much time being like, I'll tell you who I am. Just watch it and then tell me what you think. So thank God it worked out. But there's a ton of love in that show. It's just a huge heart love, for Fred project. The Fred Rogers Company they're experts at child development and understanding, the Fredish approach to things, which is really signature. We had so much music that we could work with. And so really the idea of navigating through that and creating something unique and, beautiful for Fred's legacy was just kind of coming out. But he would hear me on press because every time someone would talk about Blue's Clues, I would talk about Fred and being inspired by. So, that led me to meet him, which was, that was another big highlight for me. He wasn't pedantic, right? He doesn't talk down. He really talks to kids through the camera as if they're peers, and he gives the bite-sized information, right, in a calm way. And that really spoke to me, right? And I think, when I talk about my loud Italian family, that's what it was like. And so he was very, very specific and very calm. And it was really, I just absorbed the whole thing, as did many kids. And so, I joke that I became a stalker, but I did do a paper on him in 8th grade and found out that he had a master's in child developmental psychology. And so I ended up getting my master's. There definitely that he was very interested in learning about that, understanding of what he was trying to say to kids and how media can help reinforce that. And so that aspect of it really spoke to me. And so there was also some studies about kids who watch Mr. Rogers are kinder than those who don't. And I actually went into TV because I didn't love what was on TV for kids. We grew up with Mr. Rogers and Sesame Street, and the kids of that day, early 90s, did not. And so that much, it wasn't, there was so much other programming. And so I wanted to bring it back to the fact that, we could put something on that kids can learn from, even if they don't realize they're learning. The first time I met him, I got seated at his table when he was winning an award from the University of Pennsylvania. And it was a luncheon, and I, stared at him the entire time and couldn't eat and, did that whole freak out. And so I finally went over to him and I knelt down next to him and I just said, I just want you to know the whole reason I went into television was because of you. And I just hope that I could reach one child the way that you reached me through the TV. And I just did my kind of talk. And he just, what's your name? started over. That was Angela. And then he invited me to set, and I happened to be with the head of PBS at the time. And so she was flying to Pittsburgh. Within like a week, I was flying to Pittsburgh. And so we got to sit and watch him. Oh my God, I like freak out. Watch him do the show, and sing the song and like do the show. And then I got to meet his staff at that time and understand, just like spend that entire day. And little did I know that I'd be meeting them again, so many years later. So a few times, so we corresponded a few times. He saw the child development in Blue's Clues, he saw the theory. He didn't love a lot of what was on TV. He liked what we did. And so all of that meant so much. It meant the world to me. And so the idea that they circled back to say, like, we know how to put instructional technology and media into the, what would you do? And Fred would want you to do something to promote his legacy. And I was like,
oh my goodness. So meant to be. And he really couldn't have picked a better person than you. So you're really, really helping parents out and giving us these tools and resources to teach our kids to be like, to have the childhood that we had, because it's not that way anymore. So how has COVID impacted programming and business?
We all love a legendary comeback, and Degree Original Cool Rush is back and better than ever. Cool Rush isn't just a scent, it's a movement, a fan favorite that delivers bold, fresh vibes and all-day sweat protection. Whether you have a man that spends hours in the gym, heads into the office early, or is just trying to stay fresh on a long day, Cool Rush has their back. Head to your local Walmart or Target and grab Degree Cool Rush, the fan favorite scent from the world's #1 antiperspirant brand.
I turned off news altogether.
I hate to say it, but I don't trust much of anything.
It's the rage bait.
It feels like it's trying to divide people.
If we got clear facts, maybe we can calm down a little.
NBC News brings you clear reporting. Let's meet at the facts. Let's move forward from there. NBC News, reporting for America.
For Daniel, we're so fortunate that we have parents and kids that are watching so much. And so we felt such a responsibility to put something out to help the little ones through it. Yeah. And we love that the strategies are strategies. I mean, we hear stories all the time about kids singing them to their parents when their parents are mad, or like helping.
The count to four.
The count to four, and sharing with each other. And like, there's just so many sticky aspects of it. So what could we do? And so we fast-tracked, 9-story animation, brown bag animation, fast-tracked everything, our Voodoo Highway music, the Fred Rogers Company, our writing team, like everyone stepped up to say, like, we have a mascot of little kids that, for little kids that they trust, what should we do for COVID? And so we told a story, a Daniel story, that was in a sing-along format so that we could do that. So that was like the first thing. Like, I think like everybody else in the industry, we just wanted to give back and wanted to make sure that we were giving strategies that were helpful and useful for this age group. And in addition to that, it's really about, for me, it's about consistently getting that educational messaging out. Like Super Y is a 15-year-old brand, but it teaches reading to kids, right? And we have longitudinal studies to prove that. And it's going gangbusters right now, again, because parents are home and wanting that reinforcement for a literacy curriculum. And so we just keep thinking the team is very invested in talking to parent experts, preschool experts, and figuring out what kids need now and what they'll need, 2 years from now.
Right. As parents, I think the one thing that we're doing to a fault is too much screen time. But then again, it's like, our own work has to get done. We're managing the household, everything. It's just, there's so many balls in the air. And the one thing that we can do to placate our kids is like, here is the tablet, So how do you help us kind of remedy that? Because we know that the ramifications aren't good.
Well, no, I mean, I think, my book was all about how when you're informed and you have a little bit more information, there's no guilt, right? So you're choosing the high quality media or interactive games that the vision and the research behind it. equals your family values or equals where your kid is at or equals their emotional state, right? And once you know that, then it has like a good, and I talk about a green media smoothie, that when you know something has a good mix of, the educational piece, I talk about it as education and sweets, which is like, it has to be entertaining where the kids want to watch it. They have to like Daniel Tiger, right? And then the engaging piece, which is like, how are they making your kids think or engage or interact, or what are they taking from the show? And anything that we do, I always say it better be this half an hour or 22 minutes that we're talking to kids better be better than anything else that they could be doing. Anything like running outside, whatever, all those amazing things that they could be doing, this better be better than that. And what does that look like? And that's when I said I'll be done in terms of creating shows and doing stuff, is when I know that we've like covered all the territory and it's out there. But like, that's really the point, because then there's no guilt, because as far as we're concerned, right, it's like, would you feel guilty if your kid ate plates of broccoli all day?
Yeah,
unless their stomach hurt afterwards, right? Which is like everything in moderation. But like, that's really what I want to say. Like, we have enough guilt as parents that there really should not be one of those things that you feel guilty about. There's enough good quality media out there that you can feel okay about it.
Yes. I love that. I wanted to just touch on your books as well that I mentioned early on, but preschool clues, just by the title, it's Raising Smart, Inspired, and Engaged Kids in a Screen-Filled World. And we talked about it a little bit just now, but when you're raising kids, the most pivotal years, any psychologist will tell you, is 0 to 5. And I just think of, when you turn 25 to 30, not much changes, but 0 to 5, they're going from learning language and crawling to walking to potty training to like holding their bottle themselves. It's just these leaps and bounds that they're achieving on a daily basis. So why is it so pivotal for parents to like kind of impress upon their kids the values that they want to carry on through adulthood during these preschool years?
I mean, it's exactly what you said about that level of development. There's so many things that they're learning and relearning. And it's like, they say they're sponges, but they're more like sieves, because they can, through repetition, they're able to see and view the world and then like distill down what we think is the most important, because that's what they're seeing through repetition. And so when we're showing them, when we're telling them something, but we're doing something different, or we're modeling what we're doing or how we're doing it, like all of that makes such a difference in those years because of their brain, because of the science, because of how they're developing. And so you want everything in that concentric circle. If your child is in that concentric circle, like everything of that feeling of love. And you talked about it with having grandparents around, like that circle of love, to know that as you grow beyond yourself to like your immediate family and then to your grandparents and what that feels like. And, beyond 5, I mean, usually potentially a little bit earlier, but you start to bring in outside forces into your child's life. And then all of a sudden, all these other messages are getting in that you might not necessarily have agreed with, right? Like your child being told something differently, but they are trying to understand the world so much. And I used to talk about it, about the gate that you have, like this boundary that you have around your little ones. And then as they get older, right, the boundaries start to grow, but they're still listening. And then they're still listening up until that point when they stop, so you really have to take it all in while their brain is really growing as much as you can, to hope that you're filling all that good stuff in there. And the more you can say it in all the different ways, that you can show it, it makes a huge difference. There's so much research. That's the reason for the book, is that there's a ton of research on bonding and attachment and the brain science and why this age group is so important. And even kids with brain injuries, the way you're able to kind of really do the work that you need to do to help them because of this age group, because of the 0 to 5 and the development that happens in your brain. So I love this age group, for that reason, just because they are so smart and they're learning so much, that it's such an opportunity for us to be creating these little change makers that we're going to put out in the world.
Yes, absolutely. Can you give us some quick strategies to remember from your book and the clues, I guess?
I talk about play. I talk about using play and dramatic play, and also play in a way that is their language, right? It's their work. That's my favorite quote. I know you about that. Play being the work of the child is like one of my favorite quotes, but you can get them to do anything in play. And diffusing with humor is another one where if we can keep our wits about us and diffuse with humor, it's kind of one of those things that puts all the stress levels to a whole nother level. I talk about the media smoothie, like just thinking about what you're feeding your kids' brains in the same way that you're feeding their bodies. What does that look like? I talk about mastery and what repetition really means, right? It's not literally the exact same thing every time. It's a little bit, you're gradually getting you're scaffolding the messaging, right? So you're getting a little bit harder so that you're gaining mastery. And then I talk a lot about intrinsic motivation, because you don't want to throw your kids at the piano if you want them to be playing. You don't want that association of like negative with the piano if that's what you want for them in their future, right? It has to be a combination of what you deem important and what they want to be doing, right? So our job is to bring it out in the most positive way, all the different things that are around at our disposal, and see what they love. And if they love, the more they love, the more they do. That's, so there's a ton of little things in there. And then what we try to do as media makers is to incorporate a lot of that theory into the shows, whether we scream about it or talk about it or we just kind of sprinkle it in.
Exactly. And that brings me to radical kindness. Same thing. I feel like it's just so seamlessly woven in to media and definitely your shows that you produce. So tell us what radical kindness really means.
This came from a conversation I was having with PBS where they said, do you have any science behind kindness? Because one of the threads that we can see in all of your shows is this idea of kindness. And so I talk a lot about how it's not just being nice. The idea of kindness is seeing with your heart, which when I say it, when you read it, it doesn't sound as corny as when I say it out loud, but it's that empathy piece. And the radical is that ability to be able to turn around and see things from somebody else's point of view, right? And then to also understand when you're trying to have self-love for yourself, sometimes doesn't seem to be kind if you need to let somebody out of your life, but you are being kind to yourself so that's the definition. And so it's not just being nice and letting people walk all over you, but it's actually doing what's best for you, what's best for the world, what's best for your family, and what's best for how you're putting stuff out into the world, right? In order to get it back. And there's a kindness loop, right? Where the truth is the more you put it out, the more you get it back. And so I talk about the science behind that as well. And it was nice to be able to say, I've never gone out prior to this to be like kindness as a curriculum, versus reading or, socio-emotional. But it was so nice to be able to be like, yeah, it's all in here. And this is.
Tell us about a mom sense moment that you had.
Well, I remember knowing, like, when your kid is off, right? Like, when there's something going on. And I remember Ella was 12 and I was like, well, when something seems bad, you have to turn it around and find something good. And she goes, don't you Daniel Tiger me. It's like, maybe not as pointed as I just said it, but like it was that moment where you're like, I know you're 12, but I can use this because, I need you to be, so it's those kinds of things.
That is so funny. Oh my goodness. I love it.
It's now time for Mom Haul, when we share products we love.
Is there a product that you are loving that's just a game changer that you're using? It could be an app, it could be a physical product, really anything.
You wouldn't know it by looking at me right now, but the Peloton has changed me.
Oh, nice. You look awesome. Yes.
No, not at all. There's one thing that COVID has done was not that. But that's really lovely. I think I had used the Deepak Chopra Oprah meditation app, which is like my favorite thing.
And where can my listeners find you?
AngelasClues.com. And I definitely get all the messages, and I'm trying to write back to everybody and also trying to keep up with the posts as much as I can.
Yes. And your books as well. Your books are on Amazon everywhere. And everywhere. We will link that in the show notes. Oh my goodness. I feel like a weight has been lifted after speaking to you. You're so centered, and it feels like I'm talking to a friend. So this was an amazing conversation, and I'm just so thankful and grateful to you for helping us parents in the way that you do, with your work, with your books, with your programming. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, and give those babies a hug for me.
I will.
Wasn't it so interesting to hear from Angela Santomero? I loved learning the backstory of what kids programming entails, because I feel like if we all think back, we all have shows that left an impression on us and that we can't seem to forget well into our adult life. And the shows that she's created, like Super Wide, Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood, and Blue's Clues, are ones that our kids are always going to remember. And that's a really great thing. I wanted to share a testimonial from a past guest on That's Total Mom Sense, Samantha Edis, who's the CEO of Park Place Payments and the author of The Pie Life, a guilt-free recipe for success and satisfaction. She says Kanika's energy is contagious, and I had a blast on the show. Thank you, Samantha. I am so fortunate to have the caliber of guests that I have. All of you women are powerhouses, and it's an honor to be able to share your stories. As always, you can follow me on social. I'd love to hear from you and interact with you. My Insta handles are at Kanika Chada Gupta and at That's Total Mom Sense. You can write to me at thatstotalmomsense@gmail.com. If you have any ideas for show topics or interview pitches, or just want to say hi, I can't wait to be in touch. And as always, remember, trust your mom sense. Stay strong, super mamas. See you next time.
That's Total Mom Sense.